Okay, so I thought deeply about the levels of trauma that I've experienced within the Jehovah's Witness organization, and I thought I would talk about the should I got told off in the hall twice. You would think those things would never happen within Jehovah's Witness organization, but women are hormonal, and no, I did not instigate it, but I've been told off to tears in the front of the hall twice. I'm surprised that I stayed a witness this long, because both of these experiences would definitely pull you out of the organization. So first time I got told off in the hall. So the first time I got told off in the Kingdom Hall, where it was like a big scene and it was a huge argument between a sister and me, was maybe when I was 20. Yeah, I think I was 20, 19 or 20. So I went to high school with this girl, and my congregation has split. So the congregation that I grew up in, that knew me and knew my personality and knew where I came from and everything, I was moved from that congregation and was moved into a whole new congregation who they didn't know me. And if you watch my previous videos, you know that that congregation treated me differently. They just didn't really show me any love. They weren't very loving to me. There were other young kids my age, but they showed them way more love because they were children of elders' kids, and because my mother was a single parent, I was treated differently, and I stand by that. And I don't care what anybody says. Like, single parent kids are treated extremely different within the Jehovah's Witness organization. I stand by that. So I went to high school with someone in the congregation. I didn't know she was a witness. She actually dated one of my childhood friends, and I had no idea she was a Jehovah's Witness. Well, her mom was a Jehovah's Witness, and she would just go to the hall with her. And so this is a point where we graduated in the same grade, and we've been out of school for maybe a year or two. And I said to her, I'm like, oh, you want to study with me? Like, study the Bible with me. Now, let me just say that I was pioneering, and I had gotten into some trouble, and I told the brothers, and I ended up getting privately reproved. So I was privately reproved, but I wanted to show the brothers that I was actually trying to work on my spirituality. So I would go out in the ministry a lot, and I wanted to have a Bible study. And I thought that would look good on my service report. And I don't think people on the exjw talk about service report, but you have to fill out a timesheet at the end of the month saying how many magazines you place, how much time you spend in the ministry, and how many Bible studies you have. So I'm like, oh, well, if I can get a Bible study, then I can maybe get my privileges back again. And privileges meaning like I can participate within the meeting again. I can, raise my hand, and I can give comments during the meeting. So I asked her, I said, do you want to study with me? She was like, yeah. And since we already knew each other and we had like mutual high school friends, she was willing to study with me. So we studied for like a year, and she did really, really well, actually. A lot of her hangups was about how her mom was a super spiritual Jehovah's Witness. And I really do feel bad for those kids that have those parents that are just super extra, because I've said before, my mom isn't extra at all. So she couldn't find a balance, and I say this all the time, like, make the truth your own. Make the truth your own. Do serve God the best way you know how. Don't worry about what your mom says. And she progressed. She got better. She started going on a hall. I would go on service with her. Everything was good. And let me take that back. Maybe it wasn't a year. Maybe it was like 6 months. So, it was towards the end of me being reproved, right? So I know it looked bad, but I wasn't commenting at the meeting because I wasn't allowed to. So I guess her mom took a note of that. Like, well, this girl is studying with my daughter, but she's not commenting at the meeting. Like, that doesn't even make sense. So I guess she just started to judge me basically and just assume that I was somebody that I wasn't. I don't know. But she didn't look at the fruits. Like witnesses have this term, like the fruits. Like what is my tree producing? Is it producing rotten fruit or bad fruit? Like she wasn't looking that her child was actually progressing. She was actually going on service. She was participating in meeting. Excuse me. She changed her entire personality within 6 months. And so one day, I'm really big on not being all about, when you're studying with someone with the Bible, not just like, all right, study, leave, study, leave. Like, I want to have fun with you too, because I want you to see that I'm not a robot. So what I did now, and we're still young, we're 19, or we're 20, 19, 20. And we were like, well, let's do something. So she's still my friend. She's still somebody I went to high school with. So I've known her for a long time, for at least 5 or 6 years at that point. I was like, well, let's have fun. I trusted her. So I brought her with me to meet some brothers and sisters so she can see that there's other brothers and sisters in different congregations to meet. So I brought her out there. Well, at the time they were doing those flash mobs. So it would just be a bunch of people at a certain period of time just running through the street. So we were at a restaurant and there was just mad people running. And I'm like, Jehovah's Witness mindset, like the world is ending. It's a catastrophic event. I think it was like around the movie when that 2012 happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm sitting here in this restaurant and I'm having a panic attack. And she was looking at me like, calm down, it's okay, it's just a flash mob. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she calmed me down in that moment, but we laughed about it later. But I think she went back home and told her mom that. And then the second event that happened that probably agitated her mom, which actually did agitate her mom, is we took a road trip. So we did our Bible study, and I was like, oh, you want to do something fun? I was like, let's do a road trip. Let's just hop on a highway and drive to the city. So we got on the highway, and we just drove. We drove to the city, paid all that toll, and then we're like, what do you want to do? She's like, I don't know. And so I said, I don't know either. So we turned around and went back home. But it was fun. It was innocent. We just sat in a car for like basically 3 or 4 hours and just talked about the religion and talked about school, and we just had a really good time together. It was totally innocent. We didn't even get out the car. So we went back home, and maybe a week or two later, her mom she comes to me and she says, my mom doesn't want me studying with you anymore. And I'm like, why? Like, you're doing really well. And so I approached her mom about it. I'm like, well, why can't I study with your daughter anymore? Like, what happened? And then she was like, oh, well, you're taking my daughter to crazy places. And I'm like, crazy places? Like, I've only took her to meet other witnesses. Like, I didn't take her anything crazy. She's like, well, y'all guys went to New York. And I'm like, yeah, but we didn't do anything. We didn't even get out the car. And I'm like, and she's actually progressing. She's doing well. She's going out in service. Like, why are you stopping me from studying with her? Then she proceeds to yell at me. She yells at me so bad that the brothers run up to the front of the hall, drag her back, drag me back, drag my mom back, and drag her daughter back. So we're all sitting back there. And this is a time period where I couldn't express myself. When I'm like really upset, all I just do is sit there and sob. But I just remember sitting there sobbing, like, I'm studying with your daughter. And I'm like, tears are running down my eyes. And I'm like, and she's progressing. And she's doing this and she's doing that. And she's your child. This is not my responsibility. This is your child. And I kept saying that to her. I know I probably angered her. But I'm like, your kid is actually doing what she needs to do, and you had your whole entire life to study with this girl and she didn't do anything. But the moment that you see her progressing, you don't like me and you don't want me to study with her anymore. What sense does that make? So the elders were like, well, she does have a point. That is your child. And she was like, well, I just don't want her. I don't want them two together, basically. So, she ends up, you know, not studying with me anymore. And honestly, it was like devastating, And our friendship kind of like slowly crumbled after that because her mom never liked me, because she felt like I was putting her daughter in crazy situations. But in reality, it wasn't crazy. I was just trying to introduce her to other Jehovah's Witnesses, and not the crazy Jehovah's Witnesses, but actually good ones. Like the one that I had her hang out with was actually in Bethel right now. Like he's a Bethelite currently, but she just didn't want us associating together. So that kind of like, if you watch my first video, that kind of like attacked my character. I'm very sensitive to my character, as I mentioned before. And if you watch my other videos, I try to go above and beyond to prove to people that I'm not who you imagine me to be. Because for some reason, people imagine me to be, I don't know, like this terrible person, like especially within the hall. And I never comprehended that. Like, I'm like, I love God. Like, I just felt like I was constantly trying to prove to people that I love God. And they just never comprehended it. The second time, and this is another thing that attacked my character as a Jehovah's Witness, another sister. Now, so after that happened, I was traumatized, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna prove her mom wrong, I'm still gonna go to the hall, I'm still gonna, do what I need to do for God, right? So maybe a year after that, I go to the hall. Well, my friend ended up getting baptized, whatever. So she got baptized. I go to the hall. I go meet the service group. Now, there was this elderly sister who, think about it, back on it, like I really didn't talk to her. So maybe this is why she reacted this way. But her shirt was see-through. Like, it was sheer. I could see her bra. And she had a sweater. And I was like, oh, sister so-and-so, I can see your bra. Can you don't just cover yourself up a little bit because I can see your bra. And she like huffed a little bit. And I was like, I'm going to walk away. So I walked away, did a service group. After the service group, I walked out and we were going to go to our car groups. And this situation really, really hurt me because the context in which she was talking to me was almost as if she's had conversations about me in the past to other people, and she was telling me about myself because I was annoying her on that level. So I come out the group and I was talking to another girl that was in my age group, and we were just talking about field service, and she comes up to me. She was like, you come in the hall looking any type of way. And I'm like, what? So she sat on that for the entire 15-minute, 20-minute service group. And she came out to me after the service group telling me that I come in the hall looking any type of way. She was like, you come in the hall looking any type of way. And I don't say anything. How dare you tell me about something that I'm wearing? And I was like, well, your shirt is see-through. Like, I can see your bra, but if you want to wear it like that, then that's on you. And she was like, I'm going to tell you about yourself. And so the sister that was standing next to me, that was, I don't even want to call her my friend, but she was standing there. She grabbed her, she was about to walk away. The older sister grabbed her and was like, no, I want you to hear me tell her about herself. So it almost gave me the impression that the girl had talked about me to her in the past, and she wanted her to be witness to the fact that she's putting me in my place. And I'm like sitting there listening to her berate me, and I'm like, she's telling me who I am and the way I come in the hall, I look terrible and I dress inappropriate all the time. And I told her, I said, you know what? If you felt like I came in the hall inappropriate, you should have pulled me aside in that moment. Instead, you waited to this moment. And she was like, how dare you talk to me like that? I'm an older sister within this congregation, and I'm an older woman, and you need to sit here and listen to me. And I said, I don't need to sit here and listen to anything. And I took myself to the bathroom and I took myself into the little kids' room where the parents, nurse and stuff. And I just sat and sobbed. And ideally, I should have just went home. But here's me trying to prove to everyone that I am just this person that loves God and I'm going to push through anything. And I sobbed in the bathroom. I told one of the sisters asked me what was wrong. I told her what happened. And then I went in the car group. I cried the entire time in the car. The elder pulls me aside and told me, like, don't worry about what the sister said. I cried walking to people's homes, knocking on their door. I cried the whole time knocking on their door. And then the other girl that, I guess she felt bad. Cause I know in my heart, like I know she probably said something to her or was like witness to her talking about me at some point. She must have felt bad. So she was like, here, come with me. Let's walk around the block. I want to go visit this other sister's house. Now the other sister, she had cancer, or she had cancer, or she just had passed away. She was like, I want to go check on her daughter. So I'm walking to the lady's house around a corner. It was like a 10-minute walk. I'm crying all the way there. I get back to the street that we were working on. I'm crying there. And then the sister, like, it was like a scene out of one of those gangster movies where like they driving down the street and they're ugly eyeing the people on the side of the street and they pull out a gun and like ready to shoot them. Like, that's how the sister pulled up in the car. She pulled up in the car, ugly eyeing me and driving slow. And then I locked eyes with her and then I cried again because she just like again crushed my spirit. I'm already coming off of, being reproved and I'm coming off of, my Bible study getting taken away from me. And then I'm trying to work on my dress, but it's just like nothing's making any of these people happy unless I'm wearing a cape. Like, no one's happy with me. I'm trying. Like, I'm really trying. And everyone just kept attacking my character. I don't know how I lasted that long. I don't know how I maintained to be a witness 5, 6, 7 years after that. But like, I don't have these bubbly experiences that people have. And then they read a scripture and then it was like, oh, this isn't the truth. Like, I didn't have that. I had terrible experiences and terrible situations with the brothers and sisters and the way they treated me and the way they treated my mom. I can go on for days and yet I still stayed. I still stayed. But anyway, so those were the 2 times that I got told off within the Kingdom Hall as one of Jehovah's Witnesses.